Welcome, everybody. It's time once again for the next chapter with Charlie Hedges as he explores turning the page on his life and yours. Hey, Charlie.
Hey, Paul. As always, it's really good to be here with you recording our newest podcast. One thing I've been thinking, and one thing I found out about, or I discovered about my life today, I live in a world full of distractions. I may have plans for the day, but other stuff just seems to come up. First, there are external distractions like emails, phone calls, unexpected appointments, and less than important interruptions. But even more disrupting are the internal distractions of fear and anxiety and feelings of overwhelm, all resulting in a lack of confidence. It's almost surprising we get anything done in any given day. Our guest today, hypnotherapist Craig Meriwether, not only understands these issues, but he has developed a very practical alternative that doesn't require years of therapy. His ideas are brilliant and shockingly simple. So let's find out about Craig's ideas about how we might take back control of our lives. Craig Meriwether, welcome to the next chapter with Charlie.
Hey, Charlie, it's so good to talk with you. We've been scheduled this for a while now. I've been really looking forward to having this conversation with you.
You say that now. We're not done yet. So when we get done, you may have a different opinion, but we're going live anyway.
There you go.
Craig, I want to get deep into hypnotherapy, but before we do get deep into hypnotherapy, I would like to start with the need for such a discipline, for hypnotherapy or even therapy in general. What kinds of issues do you deal with on a daily basis that you feel hypno resolves but works with?
Sure. Any issue that involves working with the subconscious mind. And that may seem like a very broad and general kind of answer, but really the aspect of this therapeutic hypnosis, relaxing the mind and body, so you quiet down a conscious level of mind, that small voice in your head that maybe is giving you some negative self-talk. Quieting down that part of mind, resting and relaxing the body, and access that subconscious part of mind. Now, subconscious mind is for you. It may not seem like that sometimes when you're feeling stuck, when you're feeling like you're being blocked, when you're hurting, when you're in pain, when you're feeling that overwhelming anxiety or anger or worry, or stress. Your subconscious mind is for you. It's for your protection, it's for your safety, it's for your survival. It wants you alive. And one of the ways it does this is by holding on to past hurt and pain, past trauma, past fear, things that have caused terror even, or humiliation or embarrassment, or things that have caused anger or caused us to feel afraid. Again, the reason why it holds on to these, like files in a big filing cabinet, is because it doesn't want to experience it again. And so it holds on to these as markers, benchmarks, as this was dangerous, this made us feel unsafe, whether that happened yesterday, last week, 6 months ago, 40 years ago. It's holding on to it because it doesn't want to experience it again. And so as we move through our day, bringing in all this information through our five senses, what we see, hear, taste, touch, smell, all this information gets filtered through this filing cabinet. If anything registers one of those files, even just slightly, going to get the warning signals. Now, if you're in a building and somebody pulls a fire alarm, you get the sirens, you get the lights, warning everybody that there's danger and you need to get to safety. We also have a warning system, only our warning system, instead of sirens and lights, are feeling. The feeling state of anxiety, the feeling state of fear. These are warning you, brain, mind to body, that there is danger. And we want that. It's not something you want to get rid of. This is the feeling state when you're looking at a dark alley at midnight wanting to take a shortcut home, thinking maybe that's not such a good idea. That's making me a little uneasy. I'm feeling a little anxious about walking down that alley, even though it's going to save me 15 minutes. I'm going to walk the lighted streets, the crowded streets, and be safer. I live in Arizona, up in the mountains anyway, in Flagstaff, but down south in the desert, you're walking out in nature, and there's a rattlesnake on the trail. It's not your friend. Move away from the rattlesnake. You want to protect yourself, a fight in the street. Move away. If you're feeling that fear, you're feeling that anxiety, be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of your situation. Big problem is mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. And even though the main task, if you will, of the subconscious mind is to keep you safe, keep you protected, may not really understand whether that situation you find yourself in during your day is really a threat. It's not unlike maybe having a nightmare in the middle of the night. Try you or your listeners ever had the experience having a nightmare, know somebody, or maybe your children have. It doesn't matter how ridiculous or how silly or how stupid nightmare is. It could be a cheeseburger chasing down the street throwing coconuts at you. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. It's never going to happen, and yet your mind, even in deep sleep, can tell whether that's real or imagined. And so it'll turn on the safety protocol of shoot first, ask questions later, and will turn on the stress response. It's going to start armoring you. Even during deep sleep, your brain will start creating that adrenaline, that cortisol. You've probably heard the crazy stories of grandmothers lifting cars off of babies. That's adrenaline doing. That's now coursing through your bloodstream. 100% more blood moving to the big muscles of your arms, fight. 100% more blood moving to big muscles of your legs to escape. That's got to come from somewhere. So it's turning down the power on your immune system, the power on your digestive system, all during sleep to armor yourself with cheeseburgers throwing coconuts at you.
Okay, so let me ask a couple questions regarding this now. I am thinking that it reminds me. I know it's an overused metaphor, but it is so helpful, and that is the fire on the putting your hand on a hot stove or on a fire. You'll never do that again, or you'll try not to do that again. You won't do that intentionally. That's more of a conscious thing than an unconscious, right?
Yes, but it's also buried within that subconscious that, a hot pot on a stove is going to burn you. Putting your hand, somebody had the experience of roasting marshmallows and got their hand too close to the fire.
So the feelings are like that. The feelings are trying to protect you from burning yourself on a stove, trying to protect you from everything. I know a lot of this is very much related to trauma, is it not? Some sort of trauma that we're fearful of. Okay, when I know that I'm going to have physical pain if I put my hand on something extremely hot, what do I know I'm going to have when it comes to the feelings? What kinds of things am I afraid of? Embarrassment, rejection, those issues that I'm afraid of?
Oh, yeah, it definitely could be if that was a part of your life. Certainly something like burning your hand on a hot pot, that's literal physical pain that you're going to be wary of. But in terms of other issues, what was the trauma that happened in your life? You may not remember. It may be unconscious. Certainly, looking at, let's just say, for example, test anxiety. A lot of people, when back in school, or if you're a professional that requires a certification or licensing test, like a plumber or electrician or real estate agent, a mechanic, doctor, lawyer, there may be some anxiety or trepidation around taking a test. You may know the material backwards and forwards. You may have aced every class and be able to even teach the class. You know the material so well. But
I know two people personally that are brilliant that can't take a test.
Yeah. And it's not that they're not brilliant. They're extraordinarily intelligent people, and yet there's that fear that's blocking them from doing well because of what you just mentioned, Charlie, the fear of failure, the fear of being judged. And the big issue around, let's say, test anxiety, if we're just going to use that example for a moment. You have entire workshops on test anxiety. It's a big problem. It's not just high school students, not just elementary school students, it's university students. I've worked with extraordinarily intelligent people. You just mentioned your friends. It's not that they're incapable. You know the material. But it's that fear of maybe failure, fear of being judged, because at some point, down the line, maybe they got punished for not doing well. They're taking a math test, a history test, whatever it is, get that D minus. And instead of going, oh, they really don't know these equations, or they really don't know the Civil War very well, to work on that, it's, oh, now you don't get to go to the homecoming dance, or now you have to take a math class over summer school. You get punished for not doing well. And so not wanting a failure, not wanting to be punished, not wanting to be embarrassed or humiliated, subconscious mind wants to protect you from that. How's it going to warn you that there's danger walking into that classroom or opening up your laptop to sign in to take a test? It's going to give you the feeling state of anxiety, the feeling state of fear. That has a physical change within the body, like we just said, even to the point of this hyperfocus, that kind of tunnel vision, where you move out of your peripheral vision to look at this singular danger, and so you're almost shutting down various parts of your brain. You start to breathe shallowly, only into the upper part of your lungs, that kind of the smaller, narrow part, top of your lungs. And your brain takes 20% of the oxygen you breathe in. If you start giving your brain less oxygen, less fuel, less nutrients, it's not going to operate at optimum levels. And then you don't do well on tests. And not only is it embarrassing and humiliating, it has not only academic issues, it has financial issues. I was working with somebody wanted to become an audiologist and work with children, deaf children. She's an extraordinarily intelligent person. She had a master's degree. Spent tens of thousands of dollars getting trained to niche as a audiologist, was spending $600 per test of this licensing exam she had to take, had taken it 3 times before she came to see me, all to start a job with a starting salary of $80,000. It's not just embarrassment, the humiliation of telling your family or friends you failed, or being punished because you failed, or the physical ramifications of feeling that anxiety and stress. There's actual financial hardships that come with this, with not being able to start your career. Again, it's all because your subconscious mind's trying to protect you. Somewhere down the line, got the instructions that taking a test is dangerous. Feel or imagine, is taking a test really dangerous? Yeah. Not really. But it just is trying to keep you safe. And that's where therapeutic hypnosis, by quieting down conscious level mind that's telling you the test is unsafe.
Let me do one more question on this, and then I want to get into your hypnotherapy and how that works. But I know, tell me, is this just me, or is this just common? My fears, there are tangible fears. Do we have enough what are our resources like, our funds, our money? So you got money issues. That falls into a different bucket. But I'm thinking of the bucket of just a fear and anxiety, and I know there's fear and anxiety over money. But it seems to me, and again, is this me or is this very common? The fear of being less than, the fear of being not valued, the fear of not being accepted, and the fear of rejection. Those seem for me to be core issues. Is that very common with the human condition, or is that Charlie's issues?
No, it's definitely a human experience, and whether that's a nature or nurture kind of issue is open for long conversations and a philosophical debate. But in terms of, not feeling enough, not feeling worthy, got to come from somewhere. Did it come from growing up? Did it come from being in the house, bullies at school, teachers who didn't support you? That first few years of from day 1 to about 7 years old, you're very impressionable.
And that's where I experienced abandonment and rejection severely between 1 and 7, and I'm still going to therapy over it. So let's go. So I think for our listeners, we've identified that issue. I want to know what hypnotherapy is all about. Tell me because you said one thing I was really shocked at what you said is that hypnotherapy is so different than longer-term talk therapy, which can last for years. You told me that it could be just a handful of sessions and you're done.
Yeah, change happens in an instant. Now, there may be some lead up, some setup to that change. Just as a trauma can be installed instantaneously, maybe let's be extreme about this. Somebody's having physical abuse, emotional abuse while growing up as a child. Home isn't a very safe place and not a very nurturing place. That trauma can be installed, and it doesn't take weeks, months, and years to install trauma, to install wounds, hurt and pain. It can happen in an instant. Why can't it be healed in an instant? Who said it can't be? And what is their benefit to you not healing?
You mean like Dr. Freud?
Dr. Freud, let's talk about Freud. Freud was a hypnotherapist. He was studying hypnotherapy in the late 1800s in Vienna. There were still 2 schools of hypnotherapy in Vienna at the time. And part of the issue with Dr. Sigmund Freud is he had a speech impediment. Now, if any of your listeners have ever been to a therapeutic hypnosis session, the hypnotherapist talks a lot. There's not only the discussion, the conversation about what you want to work on, but then there's inductions, and then there's deepenings, and then there's the actual guided visualizations maybe of the healing work that needs to happen, suggestions, instructions.
This is hypnotherapy you're describing?
Yeah,
Really?
Hypnotherapy.
Really?
You talk a lot as a therapeutic hypnosis. You're the one doing the work in terms of the healing, but it's being guided and facilitated by the hypnotherapist. If you have a speech impediment, you're not going to be maybe the greatest facilitator of that kind of therapy. And Dr. Freud seemed to have an issue with people going into a hypnotherapist office with a problem and walking out without the problem. He wanted to focus and go deeper and into the darkness and find out why there's that problem. And so he developed an analytical style of psychotherapy. He actually literally called it talk therapy. And what he said about it was, this is not a poor man's therapy, because it's going to take hundreds of hours. And so when you look at...
Yeah, I laugh. I say I've bought my therapist their Mercedes. I've at least made the down payment.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not that there's not healing there. Obviously, there can be great healing. I'm sure there's many of your listeners who have had and great resolve from talking it out. Everybody needs a coach if you want to master or be successful in anything. Look, anybody with a gold medal, anybody at the Super Bowl, the World Series, any master of anything is going to have a coach. Going to have a second pair of eyes. Even Pavarotti, the great opera singer, was seeing a vocal coach every year. And so there's nothing wrong with having a coach, especially in business or marketing, and especially when you're dealing with relationships. I just turned 57. I started dating my wife when we were 19. It's huge growth, just 19 to 29. It's huge growth. So, yeah, there's some obstacles that need to be navigated, and it's always great to have a coach. But in terms of the actual healing, again, why go through years and years of talking about the same thing? And part of the issue that I have, some of that therapeutic work, is you're exclusively using the conscious mind. But neuroscience tells us, when neurobiologists tell us, conscious mind only makes up 5% of mind. Subconscious mind is making up 95% of mind. So while you may be talking about problems in your life, you may not be talking about the problem, the foundational problem that you were talking about, Charlie, that may cause that sense of lack of self-worth, the self-esteem issues, the abandonment issues. You may be talking what happened in your relationship last week, or what happened at work, or that person that frustrates you at work, or the drive that all these morons on the freeway. Maybe talking about that kind of stuff. And yeah, those are problems. It's not the problem, and that's what differentiates between talk therapy and therapeutic hypnosis. Again, by quieting down the conscious level of mind, you can access the subconscious where those wounds, where that hurt and pain are held. Since you're the one, Charlie, put that feeling state and those instructions on how to keep yourself safe in dealing with the abandonment or dealing with those issues of hurt and pain and wounds, and not to say it was your fault, not to say it was fair, not to say it should have happened, and not to blame the victim. Here's what becomes very empowering, Charlie. if you're the one who put those instructions on how to keep yourself safe, meaning warning you with maybe anger or fear or anxiety, or to hide or make yourself small, and maybe hiding and making yourself small was the best thing you could have done when you were a child, in a home that wasn't very safe. If you're the one who installed those instructions, aren't you the one who can take them out and install new, more resourceful instructions? It becomes very empowering. And so what's extraordinary about this work of therapeutic hypnosis is I'm not going to fix you. And hypnotherapy in and of itself is not going to fix you. You're going to fix yourself. Because who better to know what the problem is, and who better to know how to resolve it, how to solve it, the solution to it, than you. And that's where I think a lot of people get stuck, is they look outside of themselves. They've been trained to look to somebody else who has great education and experience. And yes, if I'm in a car accident, please take me to the hospital. If my appendix is about to burst, take me to the emergency room. In terms of the hurt and pain that I went through, that I installed, aren't I the one who really knows what it's about, and shouldn't I be the one to fix it?
So how do you? I'm so buying into what you're saying. I'm so getting it, because I had an event happen in my life this week that took me right back there. That took me right back to the rejection and pain, and I've been working on it in my ways. I love that you say, and I think you're, and I buy into this idea that I am the one who knows, who has the keys to the door that can open the door of healing. How do you help me discover those keys and use those keys to open the door by means of hypnotherapy?
We start with the feeling state, because that feeling state in your body, that warning signal, whether you define it as anxiety or fear or anger, it can only be created through a change in brain chemistry. Creation of adrenaline and cortisol, the creation of these molecules called neuropeptides. And let's say you're driving down the highway and it's shower traffic and there's idiots everywhere cutting you off, and you just start getting really angry. Well, to create that feeling state of anger in the body, you have to change your brain chemistry through thoughts, through maybe even accessing old memories of times you felt angry and upset.
Is this related to neuroplasticity?
Neuroplasticity is more about just being able to change of neurons, how they connect in your brain. That's why they tell, as you get older, learn new things, learn a new language, learn.
And I'm taking Spanish right now.
Yeah, how to play bridge or poker or something. Because you want to keep learning, and learning creates neuroplasticity. In terms of this, you're just operating with neurons that are already connected and may be very strong, and a very powerful connection.
Okay.
And that connection is literally changing the chemistry in your brain, creating the hormones of adrenaline and cortisol, these neuropeptides, these molecules, hundreds of millions that dump into your bloodstream, send the message of emotion down to the cells of your body, the tissues, the organs of your body. These are literal molecules of fear, molecules of anxiety, molecules of anger.
Really?
And so we start with the feeling state.
Okay.
And that feeling state is connected to the brain chemistry that got changed, and the way you're changing brain chemistry in the way we're talking about, by having a thought or accessing a memory, even unconsciously. And so that's why you could be driving down the road, all of a sudden just feel this anger. You weren't consciously aware of being triggered, but something in your maybe peripheral vision or something you heard on the radio as you're driving, you really irate. Something happened to change your brain chemistry and to create this feeling state. So there's a connection, and we can follow that connection right back to the original thought that happened. And just a quick example, because I think this explains it really well, in that I was working some years ago with the cancer support community of Arizona. This is 2020, 2021. The world's in the COVID shutdown, and everything's on Zoom. In fact, most of my sessions nowadays are over Zoom still because it works so well. We're doing classes. We had 12, 15 people. We're doing a series of classes once a week on pain control or healing acceleration or immune system boosting, this kind of thing. And in one of the series, I had a older woman. I'm guessing she's in her 70s, and she'd come to 2 of the classes. And on the 3rd class, she arrived a bit early to the Zoom session, and I'm there setting up the class, waiting for other people to show up to start class, and we're just chit-chatting. We're waiting for other people. And she asked me if hypnotherapy works with procrastination. And it does. Procrastination is a mindset issue. It's moving away from something that seems dangerous, even though...
Yeah, there is a fear there. Somehow, procrastination, there is a fear.
Yeah, a fear of maybe being judged, being a failure. And so even though it may lead to a promotion at work or a better grade in school or something, you're going to move away from it. So that's a mindset issue. It works very well with that. So we actually set up an appointment for the very next day, and because I had an opening in the afternoon. And what's interesting about this work is that once you start to kind of understand you're going to be doing some healing work, the gears start turning in your head. And we can work on a problem, or we can work on the problem. When she got to this session just 24 hours later after making the appointment, she says at the very beginning, I told you I wanted to work on procrastination. What I really want to work on is why I don't matter in life. That this is a 70-year-old woman who thinks she doesn't matter, who thinks she's worthless. And so there's a feeling state in the body tell you that you're unworthy, that tells you don't matter. True, not true. It's just the feeling state in the body that's connected to a thought or memory that changed the brain chemistry, create that feeling. In the work we're going to do together over the course of an hour and a half, we trace that feeling state back to the very first time she felt it. And because it's the origin of that feeling state that needs to be healed, the wounds that happened to create that feeling state, that file in that filing cabinet. And so we did our processes, our healing work we're doing together, and I do my countdown, 10 down to 1, and on 1 she's going to go back to her memory files and go back to the very first time she felt worthless and felt like she didn't matter. 10 down to 1, and I say, 1, where are you? She says, I'm standing up in my crib, and my father's screaming at me because I won't stop crying. Now, if she's 70-ish years old, this is the late 1950s, early 1960s, and back then maybe dads aren't exactly taught how to be nurturing fathers, and maybe he's not the best dad in the world, or maybe dad's having a bad day, a bad week, a bad life, and mom's out of the house, and the baby won't stop crying. And in his frustration and his just not knowing even what to do about it, he just screams louder than the baby, tells the baby to shut up. And in that instant, that child, to justify why this is happening, here's this person who's supposed to protect her, supposed to love her, supposed to nurture her, screaming at him, the terror that must have created, that the trauma must have created. That child decides, I guess this reason why this is happening is don't matter. That I'm worthless. Yeah, this all happened unconsciously and within an instant. But she held on to those instructions for some 70 years until one day she decided to change them. Change happens in an instant. Yeah, there was some lead up to it. Maybe there's some years of wondering and why she felt like this, and maybe doing some talk therapy. Maybe there's some lead up in that she did 2 therapy classes on pain control, physical pain control, and healing acceleration, priming her nervous system to do this deeper healing work. But change happened in an instant, and never saw her again. And so you started off our conversation a little bit ago, this work only takes maybe a couple of sessions. And what I tell people is, expect 3 or 4. She did 2 or 3 group sessions on a topic that had nothing to do with her hurt or pain or her wounds. 1 solo session, and again, I never saw her again. Now, we would check in with each other. I always check in with my clients to make sure they're doing all right. And she was doing fantastic. We kept in touch over the course of a year. She'd reach out to me. I'd reach out to her just to check in. She's doing fantastic because she let it go. She made the decision. She was in control. She knew what the problem was. She knew what to do to resolve it. Knew what child needed to heal, and she did it.
Okay, with that what I want to do is I want to take a break, and then I want to come back and I want to take a look at what triggers not the fear, but what is it that triggers the healing? We have the power over our own mind. What triggers us into that? So let's take a break and go into there. Hi there, you're listening to the next chapter with Charlie Hedges, and this is Charlie Hedges, and I am speaking with hypnotherapist Craig Meriwether, and we are talking about the need and the needs that a hypnotherapist will address and the processes that a hypnotherapist may use to resolve key fundamental issues that can be extant in your history for decades. And so what I want to do, Craig, now is I want to talk about, I want to keep going back to maybe this, you gave an excellent explanation of the woman in her 70s who felt that she was worthless and had no value. And what is it, you put people, let's get real tangible, let's get real practical. You will put people in a hypnotic state. Is that correct?
Yes, so I don't like using that terminology.
Okay, yeah. Then correct me. I want to know what you do and how this state of mind, why this hypnotic, whatever it is, state of mind is more, you are more conducive to suggestion than you may be with your conscious, because you're addressing the unconscious or subconscious mind, but what's going on with that? Explain that to me.
Okay. The key to this healing work, known as hypnotherapy, therapeutic hypnosis, is intention. It's your intention to heal or to gain more confidence in yourself. That is key. I can't make anybody do anything they don't want to do, no matter what kind of hypnotic trance state anybody is in. There is morality and there is intention. And so let's say somebody comes to me for smoking cessation. They want to quit smoking. They have to want to quit smoking. I've run into people who just want to negotiate with their spouse to smoke in the garage. They don't want to quit smoking. They just want to say they tried everything, including hypnosis. It didn't work. I had no intention of quitting smoking, and so guess what? They didn't, because I can't make them quit smoking. If I could, smoking cessation would be 100% guarantee. I could go into prisons and hypnotize everybody to be upstanding, law-abiding citizens. I'd be able to work with the leaders of the world to create world peace. I'd get Elon Musk to write me $1 billion check. But I don't have $1 billion check from Elon Musk because I can't hypnotize people to do anything they don't want to do. If you want to come to me and quit smoking, can't hypnotize you to go out and rob a bank.
Okay.
So we can split the loot. There's intention, there's morality. And in terms of taking control away from people, which I know is one of the bigger myths around hypnosis, is that's not true. Not only do I not take control away from you, you get control back. Because in a sense, you've already hypnotized. You are reacting to a trigger in your environment, in your world, that causes anger, that causes anxiety, causes fear, or a feeling of PTSD. You may know what that's about. You may be totally unconscious of it. 70-year-old woman, I gave the example about, he didn't remember being 1 year old or 14 months old.
Is it necessary to know the cause, or can you heal without knowing the cause?
Oh, you can totally do it without knowing the cause, because it's all about the healing within your subconscious mind. You don't have to be consciously aware of the hurt and pain. This can all be done uncontextually, meaning you don't necessarily need to know what the issue is. And that may seem odd and strange, especially with being so used to talk therapy and those kind of therapeutic modalities, again, which can be very healing and very useful. But we're dealing with the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind deals in symbolism, in metaphor, and in storytelling, not in logic and analysis. And that's the conscious mind. We could do a process like the timeline process, where you close your eyes and tell me how you sense time. Is it the past is on the left, the future is right in the middle, and the present is in the middle, and the future is on the right? Is the past behind you? Are you standing in the present and the future is in front of you? We all have a different sense of time, but imagine you can rise up above your timeline,
right?
See all the dark spots in the past. Now, are you really rising above some sort of timeline and seeing dark? No, it's a metaphor. It's symbolism your subconscious mind is using to create healing, because it's showing you where the wounds are, dark spots, or the red X's, or maybe there's pictures or movies, just sensations or feelings. But you can move across your timeline, go all the way back before wound happened, before the hurt and pain. Let's heal that in a way that's necessary for you. And once the healing happens, you disconnect from that old pain. Maybe literally use your hands to pull out imaginary cords, connect you to that hurt and pain. Unplugging the toaster from the wall, but you're unplugging cords of hurt and pain. And I've had people pull and pull. I worked with somebody, no exaggeration, just a couple of days ago, a 77-year-old woman who came to me, just told me she deals with anxiety. I asked her, how long has this anxiety been going on? And she says, it's been going on since I was 19 years old. I did not ask her what the anxiety was related to. Maybe she knows, maybe she didn't. She just wanted to work on the anxiety. And one of the processes we use in therapeutic hypnosis, and one that I use a lot with people, is feeling it in the body and telling me about how it feels. Is it rough? Is it smooth? Is it heavy? Is it light? What color is it?
How does it? What color is it? You mentioned that to me before. What? Help me with that. What color is it?
Sure.
How do you...
You're disassociating from the hurt and pain by accessing other parts of your brain.
Okay.
So we're now turning on the visual part of the brain, turning on various parts of the brain to disassociate from the intense hurt and pain you may be feeling. If you can start describing it to me out loud, so we're having a conversation about it, and you're describing it to me, and maybe it looks like a spiky red ball. The other day somebody said it was black ping pong balls. Maybe it's black goo or whatever color. It doesn't matter the color. It doesn't matter the shape or the feeling or the sensation. We want to add these submodalities in that we have visual, auditory, kinesthetic. Kinesthetic is touch, smell, and taste. And not only what does it look like, what does it feel like? Is it warm? Is it cold? And these operate or turn on different parts of the brain, so you get a bit of a disassociation from it. And now I want you to pull it out. Now that you have a physical representation within your imagination, physical representation somewhere in your body, maybe your chest, your heart, your throat, the back of your head, the top of your head, your gut, your arms, you have a physical representation of this hurt and pain that your subconscious mind is creating for you. It's time to let it go. So pull it out. I want you to take your two hands and pull it out. And they do. And sometimes it takes 6, 7, 8 minutes for them to pull out this hurt and pain. But a couple of days ago, I was working with a 77-year-old woman. She's been dealing with chronic anxiety since she was 19. She pulled and pulled for 48 minutes. All she did was pull this red gunk energy of anxiety out of her head. 48 minutes. When she was done pulling, she opened up her eyes, said, "It's done." And so I said, "That is awesome. That is amazing. You are incredible. I want you to close your eyes. Now we're going to fill you up. Your pores a vacuum. So now we're going to fill you up with what you need, and fill you up with the joy, the happiness, the confidence, whatever it is you need." What color is that? Start spinning it so fast that it takes on a life of its own. Is that really happening? No, but we're using metaphor. We're using symbolism, because that's the language of the subconscious mind. It knows what to do to heal.
Okay, I've been listening to you, and I've been processing what you're saying at the same time, because like I said, I just went through a very difficult time for me. And so I've been doing the imagining. I didn't ask you the color out of curiosity as much as I asked you, what does the color mean out of I'm doing my own hypnotherapy right now. Is the color red common? Because that's what, at first, the first thing I wanted to think was that it was gray or black. And I thought, nah, that's in the movies. What color is this animal? And it was red. Is that a common color for this kind of pain?
That's interesting. I haven't correlated in terms of colors to people's pain. That might be an interesting research study or maybe dissertation for university.
Okay.
People say red, people say black, people say yellow.
What are the common colors?
Green.
Are those the common colors? Red, black?
More primary colors. And again, it's what people are just describing.
They're not going to say peach.
Yeah, they're not going to say peach.
Or mauve. My pain is mauve.
No, but I've had people, like when we want to install a color, we want to install the energy of happiness and joy. What color is that? They might say violet or something like that. Somebody says red, go to the paint store. There's 57 different shades of red. I don't know what red they're talking about. Are they talking about stop sign red? Talking about a deeper burgundy? I don't know what they're talking about. It's their color. Well, and to me, in and of itself, it doesn't matter what color. It's for them. And so this kind of discussion we're having, Charlie, started because he asked me about the hypnotic trance state. And understand that all this work that we're doing is within conversation with each other, me and the person I'm working with. And so it's not that I put somebody in some sort of deep trance state
right.
to zombify them or some sort of voodoo ceremony.
Oh, bummer. I wanted both.
Yeah.
I wanted zombieism and voodoo.
You can have that. There's places to go to have that kind of experience. But in terms of the healing work of therapeutic hypnosis, yes, we quiet down the mind, quiet down the body, but it's not something you don't really experience every day. If you've ever driven home, maybe your listeners can relate to this experience, driving home and you're a few blocks away from home, you start thinking about, I got people coming over, I need to get the house together, I need to go shopping, or you got this big presentation,
right.
You got to do work next week, and you got to get the PowerPoint together. All of a sudden, you're in your driveway, in your parking spot, you're in your garage, and you don't remember the last 5 blocks. You don't even remember pressing the garage door open.
Of course, yeah, of course.
Put yourself in a hypnosis trance state, because your subconscious mind knows how to drive home, just like it knows how to tie your shoes, for your jacket,
right.
walk down the street, ride a bike. And so this is a state you put yourself in multiple times a day. Just watching TV puts you in the hypnagogic trance state, which literally just means moving from the beta brainwave state down to the alpha brainwave state. Just like being back in high school and there was that class that bored you, you're taking notes because you got to do well on the test. It bores you. I'm back in high school math class, let's say, and I'm taking notes because I got to do well on the final exam. But then I just start staring out the window. Oh my God, it's going to be so much fun. The weekend I'm going to hang out with my friends. I've turned off the external world. The teacher's still talking. I don't hear the teacher anymore. I don't hear the kids asking questions or acting up. I've moved inward, and I've just slowed down my brainwave state from beta, firing about 18 cycles per second, down to the alpha brainwave state, firing about 12 cycles per second.
Oh my goodness! You're talking about where I live my life. There are times people know I'm not there. They will look at me and say, "Where'd you just go?" And I went, "Oh, something you said took me somewhere." And I said, "So be honored that it's not that I'm not paying attention. It's just that you took me to a better place than where we are right now, sitting at this table chatting."
And you put yourself in a hypnosis trance state.
I'll be darned. Okay, so there's two things.
Something that we don't understand. We don't do multiple times a day. Again, just getting lost in a good book, or walking out in nature, and your mind wanders off to something else. And that's why this mindfulness, everybody's telling you about to be mindful, be in the present moment, is because putting ourselves in these hypnosis trance states. And aren't you already in a state of hypnosis? Something that happened 50 years ago is causing you to react automatically with anxiety and fear. You're not consciously doing it. You're already in hypnosis. You've already hypnotized yourself. So really, you've lost control. So really this work is giving you back control and dehypnotizing you that hurt and pain that you may have experienced when you were 5 or 6 years old.
Yeah.
And that's the power of this work.
Okay. We are nearing the end of our time, and I have a ton of questions. Maybe sometime in the future, would you be willing to come back? And you know what I want to talk about? We've talked a lot about theory, and we've gotten somewhat practical. I want to get real practical. I want to get down in the weeds. We may take, you know what I was thinking about doing? We may take my issue, and we may, over the phone, do a session. Over on the podcast. We may do a podcast session. What do you think about that?
With people before. And it's an extraordinary experience because not only because it's one thing to talk about theory like we have, it's interesting, it's fascinating, but it's another thing to actually experience it and how you feel afterwards. So yeah, we're absolutely going to do that.
You want to do that? Okay, I will have Melissa, my executive assistant, give my people will call your people, and we will make this happen. Now, I have one final question, and this is the way I've been ending my shows, because although we haven't talked about it, but the spiritual life is a very deep part of my life. I'm very engaged and entranced and in love with the late medieval Christian mystics, and so there's a whole mystical area of my spirituality that is different than religion. It
Sure.
is, and it's spirituality, but it's not this new agey, touchy-feely spirituality. It has to do with divinity and that there is a creator, but the creator is love, and that's the only thing that matters. I have a question to that regard, and we'll shut down the show for after that. But here was my question, and this may not even be something you're comfortable discussing. I don't know. Does relief from fear, anxiety, and a lack of confidence, does that impact the spiritual life and a relationship with the divine? And if so, how can hypnotherapy help?
That's an extraordinary question and an amazing question. I'll try to give you the 2-minute answer of what's a 3-hour conversation. But yes, absolutely, because what you're doing is you're cleaning out the cobwebs that may be blocking you from accessing those higher states of consciousness. Now, I was talking a little bit ago about brainwave state, theta, alpha, theta, delta. Those are the famous ones we learned about in school. Delta being sleep, or REM sleep. Theta being that kind of not really awake, not really asleep. What we found, or not like I did it, but what researchers have found over the last years or so, by actually watching in real time the brains of Tibetan Buddhist monks, wiring them up. You can go to National Geographic, just look Buddhist monks or brainwave state or something like that. See these pictures of these Buddhist monks all wired up, finding that these Buddhist monks don't go down to alpha or theta. They actually speed up brainwave state. And so consciousness is about 18, 20, 30 cycles per second. You go to 100, and it's what is called the gamma state. It's that state of being in the zone of being in state. If you're an athlete or being a creative person, actor getting on stage or a musician getting on stage or in a recording studio or a painter, something I'm sure a lot of your listeners have accessed that state.
Yes.
In a creative way or in prayer or meditation.
I certainly have, yes.
So what if you were to clean up the darkness in your heart, within your mind, within your soul, if that's what you want to call it,
okay,
and you were to clean the window, so to speak? The metaphor that I can use really quickly in just a couple of minutes, just because your window's dirty doesn't mean the view is gone. Doesn't mean the sun isn't shining. So clean the window. And by cleaning the window, you can allow that sunshine into your home. And so if you're cleaning
beautiful
the
metaphor
wounds and the hurt and the pain, If you worked out in the garden all day long, and you're hot and you're sweaty and you're dirty, and you get into the shower and you just cleanse yourself. Imagine doing that on the inside, and the potential then of using your heart, your soul, your mind, that super conscious level of mind, your higher self, to access divinity. Imagine what you can do. But also understand there's a relentlessness. Of course you do, and I'm sure your listeners do as well. There's a relentlessness to this work. Dalai Lama still meditates every day.
Oh, yeah.
He's 90 years old.
Oh, yeah. It's in my discipline, it's the contemplative state, and it is working our way into the contemplative state. That is very helpful. We will continue more on that as well. Craig Meriwether, this has been very cool. I had such a fun time chatting with you, and I really can't wait to where we go down into the weeds, and we don't talk theory. We talk, let's play. Let's get down in there and let's play the routine. That will be tons of fun.
Yeah. That sounds perfect.
Okay. All right. I want to thank all our listeners for tuning into the next chapter with Charlie. And until next, this is Charlie Hedges signing off. Bye for now.